Welcome to Faith Speaks here and around town at the Immaculate Heart of Mary Church here on Loudon Road, and I'm your host, Dick Patton. It's a pleasure to be back with you finally after a long time being out, but we're back, and spring is around the corner, and I'm so happy to have Father Ray here today as my guest. And you're a little under the weather, it seems like a little bit, huh?
Hey,
You do so much. I don't. Do you ever get any sleep?
Well, we get a few hours here and there.
Yeah, here and there, all right. But now that you mention it, one thing I am wondering is, has the bishop said anything about this coronavirus in masses and stuff? Are you still, because I haven't been because of what's going on with me, but are you still doing sacraments and things like that, the wine and all that? I mean, has he come out with anything yet to say, be careful? And schools, I know, are panicking right now.
Well, the United States Council of Catholic Bishops issued a statement, of course, with concern to take prudential measures, but leaving it up to each bishop to determine what's best in their own diocese. And we in turn received a letter this past week from the bishop, just expressing, the concerns and using prudential judgment. So leaving it up to each parish to determine how the best way to continue the celebrations of the Mass and the sacraments, but to do so in a way that's responsible. And so he didn't issue any edicts himself, but he's encouraging us as pastors to take prudential measures. So we're going to be restricting the receiving communion from the cups starting this coming weekend. One of the measures, and but otherwise, people just to do what's being careful and responsible, just like when we're out in public, when we go to the store, or in school, or you're at work. So in the same way as in church, the church environment as well. People are sick, stay home. I mean, that was one of the parts of the bishop's letter. If you're sick, you do not have to go to church. In fact, you should not, to be responsible, respecting your neighbor.
But I know back years in past when we had the flu going on, that they would not do the cup, and because of the cold and stuff, especially in the wintertime. But I wondered, because this coronavirus is all of a sudden starting to hit, and I said New Hampshire has one right now.
Well, I think the main reason is, for us, it's not the coronavirus, but it's just the flu season. I think that's primarily, usually it happens about this time every year. There's, we'll do things like this. So it's not a direct response to the coronavirus, which, hasn't had an impact here. Hopefully it won't at this point. It's still limited, but the flu season is having an impact.
I know, and it just, all of a sudden, it just took over the whole. Well, even now the Pope hasn't been feeling good. He's canceled some appearances over there in Rome and stuff.
Yeah.
And of course he's 83, but still, I mean, I wonder if that's a prelude, because they were showing, was it the Iranian Prime Minister or something the other day, and he was constantly wiping the sweat off his forehead, and now he's down with it. And it's like, the thing is just spreading. I don't even know how it started. It was in China, right?
I don't know all the details.
I've been trying to follow it, but supposedly anybody who's been to mainland China or whatever, they need to stay away from people. But I don't know. And, the kids who've been on school trips to Italy and China or Japan or Korea, all that now, and they showed soccer stadiums empty. And so I just wonder how the churches are reacting to this.
Well, I mean, it's part of ministry of Jesus was, the love for those who are sick. Visit and heal and minister to the sick. So we have a special regard for the most vulnerable and the weakest in in our community, in our society, that they have a special concern and regard. So, that special way in which we are to love them and care for their well-being, make sure they're getting the best care and doing whatever we can. Um, so that's part of what we as church are helping people to. So it's a time for people to step up, step up and.
Brian just wrote me that Washington State has the worst number of cases due to shipments from China over there, but I don't know. It's just the way it, and I know it's easy to get a panic started. That's the thing, but you've got to use your head too a little bit. But, and of course now that we're in Lent, we're now coming up to the third Sunday in Lent. No, second Sunday in Lent, right?
Second
Second Sunday in Lent. That's right. I get so mixed up in my dates. But, of course, I know they're refraining from eating. Now, there was something about, I thought I read in your paperwork about Lent, that people who are, was it 65 or older, or they don't have to abstain from fasting or something on some days, or they can eat meat. It was something I was surprised when I read that. But
yeah, if you're elderly and you are not able to do the fasting, would be on Ash Wednesday, Good Friday.
Yeah.
But there again, it's meant to be more of a kind of a discipline that helps us to be more aware of the deeper hunger that we have.
Yeah.
There's a deeper hunger. Just like in the gospel this past Sunday, Jesus, the temptation, turn these rocks into bread to fill your hunger. And Jesus, we do not live on bread alone. There's a deeper hunger. And to help us become more aware of that deeper hunger and not to be as quick to try to satisfy the more superficial or shallower hungers of our life that we're so often more preoccupied with. So the idea of fasting and abstinence are not ends in themselves, but they're meant to be something that helps us in our spiritual growth and as people. So yeah, if whatever someone is in need of, if there's a need for eating more, the abstention has to do with the fasting rather. The fasting has to do with only eating 3 times in the course of a day, and those 3 times the equivalent of 2 meals. So the equivalent of 2 meals within 3, but obviously if somebody is in need of more because of health needs, that's understood, and that's the intent isn't to hurt people who are in a compromised situation. And then of course no meat, which is the abstention, which is Ash Wednesday and then all Fridays of Lent. In the old days, it used to be every Friday in the course of the year.
Yes, I remember that.
Or those days. But there again, that's, and that came from a period when, the meat was the food more that the wealthier could afford, and it was a way to, connect, be more aware of our identification with the poorest in our society, identifying, recognizing their situation, to be more, that's why it's always connected to, Lent prayer, fasting, and almsgiving, giving, the money we would normally spend on the meat, make a donation to people who have less. So that's part of those are the disciplines of Lent. Prayer, which means becoming focused not on self-centered, but God-centered. So prayer, fasting, not, being aware of our deeper needs rather than our, the physical needs, some of the spiritual needs we also have. And then almsgiving, becoming focused on the other, the neighbor, helping them. So that's the prayer, fasting, almsgiving, the focus on God, on neighbor, and our spiritual selves, and the needs of the world in which we live. word Lent, of course, comes from, actually interesting, the word Lent is actually a shortened form of the word lengthen. The word lengthen, which refers to this time of year when the days are becoming
Yeah.
lengthier,
Yeah.
the daylight. So the lengthening of the daylight, and that word lengthen is where the word Lent is derived from.
I knew that.
So this is the time when, you know, the light gets greater, and hopefully in us that we are allowing the light to be able to grow more in our lives as we move from winter to spring, from Lent to Easter, from death to new life, from slavery to freedom. So many of the themes, you know, the theme of the Passover, from slavery to freedom of the Egyptians, from the Israelites from Egypt to the Promised Land, from the way of the cross, the way of glory, resurrection. So that's part of our theme this year of discovering that hidden treasure that's, you know, just like spring is hidden within winter, you know, life is hidden within the way of the cross, which seems like death.
Yep.
Sacrifice, which leads to something life-giving. You know, the caterpillar that hides the butterfly. In the same way, when Jesus says, when you lose your life, you find your life. So that hidden inner life, to allow that to come forth, to emerge. So from fear and anxiety to peace and joy, how those qualities emerge once we reconnect to that, you know, that deeper hidden source, that deeper well, and how to access that, which is what we're moving towards during this season of Lent.
Interesting. I never knew that. As far as the word Lent, I just assumed it was a word of the season, but now it makes it true. Lengthen, and so. But I'm just really, you know, Easter is become such a commercial day, though. It's almost getting bad as Christmas. But, you know, and the true meaning, people are starting to, I don't know about you, but I think people are kind of getting away from the church again. And it's either something brings them back. I mean, yes, on Easter Sunday you'll have a crowd as usual, we'll make big crowds. But then all of a sudden it kind of dwindles down again. But I don't know, I just wonder sometimes, and, you know, what's it going to take to bring people back? You know, I mean...
Well, I think sometimes life will, like I always say here during Lent, sometimes, you know, people are trying to find things to do for Lent, and sometimes Lent finds you.
Yeah.
You know, you're faced with an illness, you're faced with job loss, you're faced with, you know, whether a loss or challenge or sickness or brokenness in relationships or whatever. Sometimes life finds you like that, and then you're like, what resources do we have to cope or to manage or to deal with? And it's at that point where you're beyond your own strength, your own abilities, your own, you're at your wit's end, you're at the end of your rope, as we say, or at the, to not only to your, that sense, first step of AA, you know, the 12 steps, feeling of being powerless, helpless, and, or even to understand, I'm going through a dark period, and how do I even make sense of this? How do I find the strength to go on? And that's at the place that, you know, and that's the universal human experience. How do I now find the strength, the energy, the spirit to take that next step? And really that's a spiritual, you know, we look around us at the natural world. We see flowers and trees and birds and all the animals, and, you know, they seem to be doing just fine, you know, living life. And then humans, we're filled with anxiety and fear and depression and all kinds of, and it's like, what are they connected with that we're not sometimes? We've kind of disconnected ourselves from the source, you know, say from being, from God, from life. You know, we're living out of our minds, our brains, which are our thoughts and concepts, ideas, which are often simply, disconnected from reality. And it's like how to reconnect to life and to the source. And really, that's what we call, the word religion actually means to religion, religament, to reconnect. Like a ligament connects, the bones, right, and muscles.
Yep.
How do I reconnect to life, to its source, so that I can draw from it? And usually we're trying to find meaning in life and identity and happiness beyond ourselves, out there. If I can only own that or possess that or achieve this, and that's the whole delusion of that life and meaning and joy is outside of myself rather than going inward, taking that step in and finding that the inner place. And that's the, when Jesus goes out into the desert, it's like inviting, Lent's meant to be that desert where we kind of disconnect from so many of the things that we're preoccupied with, or busy and upset and anxious about, that draw our consciousness and our attention to become more aware of that deeper part of us where, we find the joy that the world cannot give and the peace that the world cannot take away. So that's really what Lent is helping us to. And that's a universal, something we all need. That's a universal human need. And really, religion isn't meant to be like some window dressing or the icing on the cake or something extra in addition to. It's meant to meet the deepest needs and hunger of the human, being a human being.
Sure.
And that's, and then sometimes it takes that, experience of, the bottom's dropped out of your life to all of a sudden come to that realization that we've been living in illusion, an unreality, and now I have to face that experience. And that's why, in the church, you go into the church, and front and center there's you see the figure of a man brutally dying, crucified, and they say, that's reality, that's life. How do I integrate and incorporate that into life, to find meaning and hope and purpose in that? And that's what we're all trying to integrate into our life, to allow it to be life-giving, and that's something that, something that stretches in my heart, to be able to love and to care and to have compassion rather than to cause me to, quit or give up or be cynical or, so that's the universal question.
On a lighter note, just curiosity, now we're in the season 2 of March, but St. Patrick, what was his role in the Catholic Church? He's a saint, right? I mean, St. Patrick, but...
Yep, St. Patrick, and he is, like a great example of someone who has his faith and wants to share it.
Yep.
He wants to share, you have good news, you want to let others have an experience of that and that encounter in the same way. And so he's significant because he is the patron saint of Ireland. That he was someone that helped lead to the Christianity taking a foothold in Ireland, and so out of his faith, others' faith was able to grow, and the church was able to be established. So we always say St. Patrick could be claimed by a number of. I guess he originally was from France, so he could be called French, but then he was in England as well, so he can be called English, but England was part of the Roman Empire, so he could be called Italian, but of course he's the patron saint of Ireland, so he's a number of, but yeah, it's a great thing to see a country like Ireland being able to say, here's, our faith didn't just fall down from heaven, it was because of a person whose faith and commitment was something was shared. Our faith is come from someone who had an influence on me. So it's a great way of how faith is passed on and handed on, and it's the result of the sacrifice and the commitment, the dedication of other people. So, so it's not just meant to be an occasion to, eat corned beef and cabbage and drink green beer, but it should be also has, just like Christmas, it's more than Santa Claus and Christmas trees, and Easter is more than the Easter Bunny.
Oh,
I mean, St. Patrick's Day has a, like there's a holy day within each holiday, and sometimes a holiday can swallow up the holy day,
sure.
the feast of St. Patrick.
Yeah. But I know you've got things going on here at the church too for St. Patrick's Day or somehow in that area.
Yeah, Saturday, March 14th at 5:30 p.m. in the church hall here, Immaculate Heart of
So
Mary.
you said a date thing, then the bulletin has
Yeah,
to
it was
be
so
to be
Saturday,
announced.
March 14th, 5:30
Right.
p.m. Potluck. So bring a dish. It could be anything, but if especially Irish dishes and
Corned beef and
corned
cabbage.
beef and cabbage, Irish stew, Irish soda bread, whatever. And so we have that in the church hall, and then while that's going on, we have activities for children in the center. So it's always a fun evening.
Are you going to be playing Irish music over
We'll
there?
have Irish music, and we're get some live music for people to hear. And
Irish music,
Irish.
not rock stuff. Irish music.
if you like to perform, Dick.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, that would take them right out of the hall. But I was thinking of the Unicorn, the Irish Rovers, the
Irish Rovers, I love to have them.
Whiskey on a Sunday. I love that song that they used to sing. Yeah, I know my aunt was very Irish. Boy, she was really into Irish music. Boy, she just loved it. And so St. Patrick's coming up, but we never hear too much about that. They used to have parades and things, but the church doesn't really. I mean, they note him, but there's no really special day that I know of.
Well, I mean, it's Holy Day, March 17th. I mean, we have Mass, and it's his feast day.
Oh,
he's remembered in the Mass, March 17th. He's actually here in New Hampshire. Our patron saint of our diocese is Saint Joseph, but Saint Patrick is a secondary.
Oh, really?
Is patron saint, and that's because of the Irish Catholics, and in fact, in most places wherever there were Irish had an influence, you're going to find a lot of churches. St. Patrick, there's a number of St. Patrick's churches throughout New Hampshire and other parts of New England, and other Irish saints, St. Bridget or St. Columkill, or so there's a number of Irish saints that have, but yeah, there's a significant number of Irish and New Hampshire Irish, French Canadians, so the different Polish. There's been different nationalities, and they have their specials, festivals, and so yeah, in Manchester they have the St. Patrick's parade down Main Street.
Oh, that's right.
Elm Street, and
they do. Are they still doing that?
yeah, they still do. They paint
Usually
the shamrock on the.
Usually it's toward the end of the month on it. I was wondering about that. I haven't
There you
heard
go.
much about it.
That's another parade you can organize, Dick. A St. Patrick's parade down Loudon Road.
Oh yeah, wouldn't that be wonderful? Yeah.
Why don't you get on it?
Well, if
You
Immaculate
still a
Heart of Mary
couple-
wants to sponsor
still a
it, then
couple-
I'd be more than happy
Still
to.
a couple weeks ahead, you could get that
Yeah,
done by then.
if you want to sponsor it, I'll provide the funds. We could do that, but I remember one year they did a joke on April Fool's Day that the Easter parade was going to be held in Concord. We were bombed with phone calls. When is it? Where can we be? No, and finally they had to go on the KXL had to go on the radio and say that it was a joke, April Fool's joke. But oh man, they had everybody up in arms about it. Oh wow, where is it? What's it going to be? So, but well, I appreciate you coming on. I know you're not feeling that well, so you get some rest. And I don't know how you do it. You're teaching tonight too, aren't you?
Yeah, I have a course, The Way of Imperfection. So Tuesdays in Lent from March 3rd through March 31st, 5 Tuesdays from 6:30 to 8 p.m. in the Immaculate Heart of Mary Church Hall.
Yeah.
So if anyone's interested in taking the course, you're welcome to come. There's no cost, and people send me an email, and then I send them an email of what to read, and that's so it basically is that sometimes we think our imperfections are what keep us from God. Rather, that's the place in which, you know, God is able to come in, kind of breaks through our ego,
Yep.
breaks through our
Sure.
defenses in a sense. You know,
Sure.
I always give that like example of the Navajo Native American tradition, where whenever they sew a rug, for example, they always stitch in an imperfection, and I said that's what makes it holy. That's what the imperfection is. What enables relationship. That's what the connection with. And I think our own flaws, our weaknesses, our shortcomings, things that we wish we didn't have, and yet that's the very place into which the holy divine, where we become less self-centered, egocentric, to now becoming other-centered, God-centered. So the theme of the way of imperfection is the way to holiness. The way of ascending is by descending, going down in a sense. But that's
Yeah. Well, good. Well, we're coming to our close of Faith Speaks. Invite you to listen to us on 102.7 FM, Hope Radio, Catholic Radio, here in Concord and the Concord area. And we wish Mike Bolino well as he continues his move permanently down to Virginia. And I'm going to miss him around here, but I hope Catholic Radio will continue. He says it will. They got a new tower they're going to be moving to very shortly, but I appreciate Immaculate Heart letting us do our tapings there. And so with that in mind, have a great day. Thank the Lord for another wonderful time for us, and able to get out and enjoy the nice day, and hopefully don't take it, don't take advantage of it, just enjoy it and thank the Lord for what He's done for us. I'm Dick Patton, your host, Father Ray from Immaculate Heart. Have a great day. Thanks to Brian Blackton.